Hey everyone, Mark here from SnowOnly. Just coming back with another video. Just wanted to give you a bit of a guide to investing in the Alps. A lot of knowledge that I've learned over the last 10 years of dealing with a lot of agent developers, just following the industry and kind of seeing where the opportunity is coming from and the state of the market at present. If you are considering buying a ski property, obviously go to snowonly.com to start your journey, but maybe you'll find some golden nuggets of information in this presentation for you. So first of all, we're just going to have a look through the presentation. Hold on one second. This works for me. Perfect. So this is really a guide to investing in the Alps. Everyone, what a lovely picture to start with. I think that's what everyone kind of imagines as their dream property. Just some information in here, as I said, some golden nuggets that maybe you can take away or at least assist you in your journey in terms of moving forward and getting some idea of how we work things out. Okay, so here we go. First page. So price appreciation in the French Alps and what it means for buyers. The French Alps have long been a prized location for second homes and property investments. In recent years, the region has seen steady and sometimes sharp price appreciation, particularly in popular resorts such as Chamonix, Méribel, Val d'Isère and Courchevel, which are all very prominent on our inquiry list from buyers. So what we have in a lot of ski resorts, what maybe people don't appreciate, is that we have a limited amount of supply and a lot of demand. So I think there's always the expectations that people have all the time in the world to buy their property, especially for ones that are in good location and good prices. The Alps is such an in-demand place that majority of time, all the ones that are exceptional value, exceptional locations get sold pretty quickly. There was one particular development in Méribel recently where the guy thought that he had all the option to purchase, and when he spoke to the developer, there's only one unit remaining, and it had only been on the market a very short time. So there is high demand and there is limited supply. I'd say limited supply for the best units, if you know what I mean. Obviously, if you're in Morzine and you're 2 kilometers from the center of town, there may be less demand for those units, but anything that meets the criteria of what we'll speak about moving forward, then for sure. The second one is increased international interest. Let me just move this because I realize that you just can't see it. There we go. Is increased international interest. We get a lot now of buyers coming from the likes of Dubai, a lot of expats, Hong Kong, Singapore. So the international interest is definitely increasing. When I lived in Asia, there were a lot of Thais going to Japan, and obviously that demand comes from Australia as well. So it is kind of all over the world at the moment, especially with the ease of flights for international airports such as Geneva, which makes the Northern Alps of high demand around Chamonix, Morzine, Leger, places like that, because of the fact that it's a short transfer after such a long flight. Improved accessibility, enhanced transport links, high-speed trains. If you look at one of our older videos, we did a video on La Toussière, the Les Cibelles area, where there is a lot of development in terms of train links from Paris that will make train times, accessibility a lot shorter. So these are things to look at in terms of appreciation and opportunity. And obviously the dual season resort now, because obviously there's a lot of focus from people on climate change. I guess the landscape of ski properties is changing fundamentally, because some people were buying ski properties and they're not even going skiing, which is because obviously things like the wellness centres, summer activities, mountain biking, e-biking, whatever it is, has become a lot more relevant rather than just the 16-week ski season. Next one, implications for buyers. Yeah, so We're seeing in terms of price per square meter, it's all over the place a little bit in terms of obviously where you want to go. There is still opportunity at around 9,000 to 10,000 euros a square meter in some resorts that are kind of flagship resorts, I'd say. We just have an incredible development in Morzine that's 150 meters from the chairlift, which is around 10 to 11,000 euros a square meter. But some of the more, let's say, flagship resorts in Maribel, Courchevel are probably pushing up, I would have thought, maybe 40,000 euros a square meter at the moment. So it depends how much bang you can get for your buck in terms of obviously what you want for your cost. Sometimes a bit of easy maths is if you've got €1 million to spend and it's a 10,000 euros per square meter resort, you're going to get 100 square meters. But if you're looking at somewhere like Maribel, which might push, let's say, 30,000 euros a square meter, 30 to 40,000 euros a square meter, 30,000 euros a square meter for easy maths, you'll probably get around 35 square meters for your property. So obviously your budget needs to be a lot higher. Capital growth potential. While prices are high, long-term appreciation makes properties attractive as this investment vehicles. We will touch on that. And early investment advantages. A lot of early developments. I did a little bit of a piece on this recently, where sometimes it's better to get in early to a development, so then you've locked in the price as the properties appreciate throughout the years. By the time, let's say, it takes 18 months to purchase, you might have seen appreciation within your property, and yet you're still paying the price for 18 months prior to that. So there is consistency in appreciation. So a lot of people focus on ROI, but for me, there is always appreciation. And sometimes if you can find these developments in good locations and you can buy in early to the best units in those developments, there is an early investment advantage. Again, happy to recommend if you just want to contact me. These are from our friends at Knight Frank. Just a bit of a guide there. I'll leave it on the page, but you can see the appreciation generally between, let's see, on the right-hand side here in Megève, around 2%. Let's pick out some others. Maribel, 3.8% per annum, and then something like Courchevel, 1850 might go up to as much as 9%. This obviously isn't a blanket statement across the market and depends on a lot of things in terms of style of the property, location, price, etc. But it's a guide to kind of show that there is appreciation year on year in these properties, and we can see it at the moment how much these things are appreciating. Land is running out, so resales and new developments, the last new developments in these resorts are good ones to get into because there is no land left, which means there is no new development, and yet the demand is still high. So all owners should be happy in terms of moving forward. What to know about the buying process? I'll kind of briefly touch on this. For anyone that kind of comes into our website, there's a lot of focus on places in Switzerland and Austria. Because a lot of our buyers come from the UK, which is normal for any website, Switzerland, Austria are notoriously more difficult to buy in than places like France and Italy, where there are no restrictions on foreign ownership, unlike Switzerland and Austria. If you're talking about France in particular, I don't want to do every resort while we're here. You can give us a call if you want to have a discussion. But if France in particular, where we have obviously most of our inquiries, anything less than 5 years or new developments, the notary fees are 2 to 2.5%. Whereas if you're looking at resales, they are more likely 7 to 8%. We work with a couple of companies in terms of mortgages. I will touch on this a little bit later briefly, but typically you want to put down about 20 to 30% of the property price, and then you can mortgage the rest. But this is obviously subject to your own personal background and income. Taxes, again, we can put you in touch, but I won't highlight that so much at the moment. But this is obviously in terms of the buying process. The notaire is the main person to speak to early days in order to get your ducks in order. Getting the most out of your property to maximise. So in terms of our inquiries, what we tend to find is that people are only really investing in dual season resorts. You do have these kind of anomalies in places like maybe Val d'Isère, which isn't so much in terms of the summer season, but places like Chamonix and Morzine. Chamonix, I think, gets 30% more people in resort in the summer than it does in the winter. So dual season is of particular importance because of the ROI. 16 to 20 weeks we are not relying on now. We can add another 8 to 10 weeks over the summer, which makes the ROI slightly better, which helps with appreciation of the property. Focus is on location. The majority of our buyers ask for ski and ski out properties or something that is very centrally located. This works for couples or families. Anyone with a large family does not want to be carrying 5 pairs of skis 2 kilometers up a hill with no bus links or anything. So the location is of paramount importance. There is a premium for this, but also there is a premium for rentals, and this is generally where the demand is. Other amenities obviously are helpful because we are looking at lifestyle dream properties and not necessarily just pure investment. So hot tubs, fireplaces, ski rooms, ski caves, parking is of paramount importance. So if you can bundle all this into a package, it certainly helps when you are looking to purchase a ski property. Year-round living, seasonal access in mountain resorts. As we said, post-COVID, I think there is a slide coming up around that, so I won't touch on it too much. But obviously the appeal of the mountains is the clean air, the outdoor living, the scenic beauty, remote workers, obviously, again, post-COVID, remote workers, modern infrastructure. Resorts are now evolving a little bit with families moving there. So things like schools, health service, high-speed internet are of paramount importance, which a lot of the resorts are adapting to and investing in. And then we have the summer activities, dual season, as I said, hiking, mountain biking, climbing, paragliding. And to be fair, I've spent so much time in ski resorts in the summers, and arguably I would prefer it to the winters. And then again, as we mentioned earlier, accessible considerations, transport links are huge in terms of getting access to the ski resorts. So convenience is key in terms of obviously getting there. Seasonal limitations, some smaller or high altitude resorts may partially shut in spring or autumn, as we touched on before. Lower altitude resorts offering better year-round conditions. It's interesting, this one, because a lot of people are asking for resorts that are over 1,600 to 1,800 square meters altitude. But actually, places like Morzine and Chamonix offer probably the best income through the summer. So you kind of have to trade that off against each other. Some people actually don't mind the lower resorts like Megève because it's such a beautiful time in the summer, and it becomes, as we said, a bit more lifestyle, that where they're not worried about the winter. There is still appeal for all these places if they're like a flagship resort like Chamonix, Morzine or Megève, even though they are slightly lower altitude. There is less appeal, for example, if you look at Val Thorens, which is around 2,400. People might consider that a bit too high. What I would look at is the size of the resort. So if you're looking at something like the Three Valleys or the Porte du Soleil, you have a huge amount of skiing. Or Teen, for example, which goes up obviously to the Grand Motte. I think it's around 3,600 or something, maybe it's over 3,000. So it's can you access the high altitude skiing? Even if you're at 1,000 meters, if you can access the high altitude skiing, then obviously that helps in terms of guarantee of snowfall. Inside knowledge, I find this really interesting that a lot of buyers try to do their own research. Just bear in mind that people like myself, or in particular myself, do this for a living. So we speak to a lot of people. So we find out obviously all the best developments, some stuff on the grapevine that is potentially happening, and just doing a big due diligence on a lot of the ski resorts. So give us a call, book in a discussion. Happy to share knowledge as long as it takes you a little bit further down the process of buying a ski property. Why are the Alps appealing investments post-COVID and continue to be? Well, everything, COVID, obviously, such a crazy time, but it did highlight the benefits hugely for mountain property, because it obviously replaced everything that COVID restricted us on, which was nature, space, and healthy living. Instead of put in a cage and not allowed out or breathe any fresh air. So now people are looking at these property purchases purely as a lifestyle, and with the limited supply, there is obviously a high demand for that. There isn't an alternative to the Alps. It is the Alps, and within these resorts there is limited amount of property. So this obviously changed a lot of people in terms of remote working, where they want to spend their time with their families. So we have remote work freedom. The health and wellness appeal has massively been impacted since COVID as well, in terms of what the resorts offer. And one of the other things is having a diverse portfolio. So during my time in Asia as a real estate broker, there were 4 elements to people's purchase: usually a city property, a ski property, a beach property, and a boat, if you were lucky enough to do that. But even within overseas investments, people tend to purchase one in Portugal, one in Spain, one in the Alps, just to have more of a diverse portfolio, rather than sticking all their eggs in one basket if they are looking for an investment opportunity. One of the things that is really important that I try to get to people in terms of helping them with their property purchase is the fundamentals when buying an overseas property. Whilst we understand the dream is the fun bit, and people go through that process of wanting to choose the property, they want to choose the furniture, they want to look at the floor plans, they want to see what the view's like. You can't do any of that unless you know how much money that you can actually borrow, or whether you can even afford it. So, or how you want to set up that purchase. So the notaire will ask all the questions about obviously setting up the purchase. The currency might be a big factor for you in terms of when you make your offer on a property. You don't want that currency to fluctuate. So when you go to purchase the property 3 months after you've made the reservation, if it costs an extra 20 grand that you might wish you'd locked in a forward contract. The mortgage application takes X amount of time to come through. So if you make a reservation and it's subject to a mortgage, or you want to make an offer but you don't actually know that you can borrow money, then these things need to be done before you start to go through that process. So the notaire, the currency, the mortgage, for me, are very fundamental steps that you need to take in order to be ready to make your offer, so you don't lose out on the property by then going backwards and then waiting a month before all the stuff is then agreed, and then you go back to that property that you loved and it's gone. The other one that I consider is life insurance, which is becoming even more important. So if you are making these overseas purchases, maybe especially as a UK person, but not exclusive to being a UK person, you could be subject to quite a large tax bill that might be a burden on your family if you haven't kind of set this up for your overseas properties. You don't want that to be an issue going down, obviously, if something happens to you. Obviously, no one wants anything bad to happen to people, but it's worth the protection. In conclusion, ski homes in the French and Swiss Alps and anywhere else combine luxury living, investment potential, and access to year-round recreation with strong appreciation. Limited availability and strong demand, plus robust rental demand in winter and summer season, improved livability. Buyers today are not just acquiring a holiday home, they're making a lifestyle and a financial investment. That said, understanding local dynamics and working with professionals is essential to navigating the market smartly and profitably. What I would also add to this conclusion is that we are the experts in this, and we have put together like a huge team of people that you can speak to. So the idea is that you come to us and you can have a look on SnowOnly, which there are 9,500 ski properties. I don't think there is a bigger website around that offers that amount of ski properties, but also, as I said, the access to the notaires, the currency, the mortgage, the life insurance are all paramount in your property purchase. So please feel free to get in touch with us either on our website at www.snowonly.com, or you can email me at info@snowonly.com or mark@snowonly.com, and I will happily share my wealth of knowledge with you and see if we can put you on the steps to finding your ski property. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. Let me exit and hope you have a good day and enjoy surfing the internet. But please feel free to get in touch at any time. Thank you. Bye.